And welcome on in, baseball fans. Hello, hello, hello. What is going on? I hope everyone is doing well. I hope everyone is rested. What a day it was yesterday. Josh, I mean, my goodness. You're probably like a warrior coming out of just a war like it was in ancient Rome. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well now. I slept pretty hard last night. Work, day job was a little tough to get through today, but
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
here. I've recovered from,
Oh, yeah.
pretty wild day.
Yeah, same with me too. I mean, I wasn't able to go live for everything yesterday. I wish I could have. Unfortunately, had to go to work yesterday, but went live last night. We had a ton to talk about last night. We went live, I think, at around 10 p.m. We were around like 500 or 600 strong until almost like 12:30, 1 in the morning. And man, busy night last night. And but I can't even imagine how. I think John went on a vacation, right? I think
Yep.
John just said, all right, I need a vacation after this. No, I'm just kidding. I think it was planned. But John and you guys, you did a great job in this trade season. And hey, man, what's honestly, in my opinion, the best thing to come out of this entire trade deadline? Sure, we had a couple of great moves, but honestly, you guys got the recognition you finally deserved. Like that is huge for me, and because I've been using the site for a couple of years, and I've sat there and argued with people, about how good the site is, and everyone, still people wanted to downplay how good it was and all of the hard work that you guys put in. So that was one of, I think, the biggest things that came out of the whole thing. You guys worked extremely hard the last few years, man. You guys deserve it. And you guys just, I think you hit 10,000 followers on Twitter.
Yep.
I didn't even realize you guys got to that point. I checked it today and I'm like, whoa, what the heck? Was that like 5,000 the other day? Like, geez, man. But congrats on that, man. And you guys deserve it. Hey, hopefully some more big things coming for the site. I know you and John, you guys are, throwing ideas back and forth, but I know you guys will be ready for next year too. So,
Yeah,
but I don't know, just kind of, what was your experience with everything this year? Just seeing the growth of the site and just the Twitter and everything. Like, what are your thoughts on the whole thing?
Yeah, first, thank you for the support and for all the kind words. And you were one of the first larger content creators to really pick us up. And we noticed the traffic when you started picking us up for sure. We're like, where's all this coming from? And then we finally caught on.
It's me.
Yeah, exactly. Insane month or so. I think a month ago we were at something like 4,000, 4,500 followers on Twitter. And then of course there was the Jeff Passan tweet, and that bumped us up to like 6,000-7,000, somewhere in that range. And then I was just watching that number go up and up and up all the last week until it finally crossed 10,000 a little bit after the actual deadline. It's been wild. There's been, there's been a few folks who haven't been quite as nice about it. Some of the new folks that don't quite get it yet. There's been some that have been great and asking all the right questions and being very supportive the whole way. There's a couple bad apples. We don't talk about those. But in general, we had actually, on the site itself, we had just kind of upgraded it a couple months ago because we were having some lag, some slowness. Mm-hmm. So we upgraded the back end so that we could be performing higher and get ready for the deadline. Yeah. And even so, it got a little laggy yesterday. It crashed a couple times. Just so much traffic on the site, so much going on Twitter. This is not where, this is where I dreamed that we could have been when we started up 3-4 years ago. And it's exciting to be here this quick, and I hope it just keeps going up from here.
One of my favorite parts of just kind of seeing, it's crazy how people's opinions can change. You brought up Jeff Passan. I swear to you, I keep my eyes out there in the Twitter world, man. And on the YouTube world too. I look around and I've seen a couple other YouTubers say, I don't know about that site. Nah. There was one guy, he's a bigger baseball YouTuber out there, and he's like, nah, I don't try. And this is like a analytical guy, and he's just like, not Foolish Baseball. He's the king. But no, this guy is just like downplaying it. And I'm like, all right, bud. All right, fine. Whatever you say, man. And, but now all of a sudden these people love it. And it's just like, oh, when Jeff Passan sends out one little tweet and everything is, the next best thing since, sliced bread. I don't know.
Yeah,
What can
John
we
and I both fully understand any skepticism. I mean,
Yeah.
people have been making their own trade proposals for decades, probably, and on
Yeah.
Twitter at least for the last decade or so. And
Right.
everyone thinks they're right, and nobody wants to be told that they're
Yeah.
actually off on anything. And it's a big claim that we come out here saying, "Yep, we know these numbers, we got it. This is correct, this is accurate."
Yeah.
But we
Yeah.
do our best to be transparent. We do our best to, when it is off, we try our best to explain why. And if it is just, well, we were wrong, we messed up, then we try to be as clear on that as possible. And so we we think the track record speaks for itself. We're not, we at least try not to come across as these numbers are the law of the land. There's going to be no leeway from it. We try to be as reasonable that it's an inexact science and we're just doing the best we can. Nothing's going to be perfect, and we're happy with how accurate it is.
Yeah, man, it's been great, and it's been a ride, and it's been a lot of fun, man. You know, we've been doing this show for the last month or so, and it's been great. We've had a lot of people coming on in. July is the month for the channel. Like, if there's like a Christmas for my channel, it's the trade deadline. You know, it's just kind of the way it is. Like, I'm a firm believer in this. I think the majority of people, they enjoy the off-season moves and the trade deadline more than the actual game itself. They like just the drama of it. Seeing a player in a different jersey. I think people live and die for the Photoshop of when like they put Juan Soto in a Padres jersey. People live for that. They want to see it. It's just like it. Yeah, man. That's what I think it is.
I live and die for the bad cut for Photoshop where they put the MS Paint and they just kind of draw the new logo on his hat. That's my thing.
I love those. Dude, I'm going to say right now, I think the king of the Photoshop game has to be MLB Fox, their Twitter account. Like, they're so good. Like, it is like, it's like art. Like like the thumbnail, that's the, on this, I have Juan Soto in his Padres jersey. That was from MLB Fox. Like, they do an amazing job on that, man. Anyway, let's get back to focus here. We did have a busy day yesterday. So for today, we're going to just go over some winners and losers for people that are here on the channel. I do have my video done for my grades for each team. I just need to edit it and whatnot. I guarantee I'll leave a blooper in there somewhere. Knowing me, I've done that. Dude, one of the last videos I had, I left a blooper in the intro. I messed up. I like flubbed my word, and it was just the most awkward thing. And I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. So expect a blooper somewhere in there, everyone. But expect that video probably tonight, honestly. I just got to edit it down and then I'll post it. But we got a new member, eRock TV, and we did have a super chat, Comman752. I could have sworn most experts said the O's were twisting the knife to us fans in this season. Well, I never heard no bell. Season sweep of the Rangers. You gotta love that. We're going to talk about the Orioles, and who knows, maybe they will be one of our winners. I have my list, and I'm sure you have the teams in your head of who you think are the winners and the losers. I mean, I think we just got to start big here. I think we got to go with the story yesterday, and that's the Padres. I mean, I don't know, man. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm like Gandalf the Grey and I've been around since 1930 and I've seen it all, but I've watched quite a bit of baseball and I've seen a lot of trade deadlines and a lot of off seasons. And I mean, specifically trade deadlines. I've never seen a deadline like that. Like, and we've never seen a move like Soto move, go to another team. That's crazy. I don't know. Just what are your instant reactions to the Soto trade? Just, I mean, my goodness, like what were you thinking with that yesterday?
That was a roller coaster down to that like 5-10 minute span where we thought Eric Hosmer might kill the whole thing on his own.
Oh,
that was
praying for it.
An entire thing was a ride, and I went pretty heavy on the record about a month ago on the site, wrote an article and said, hey, Juan Soto, he's not tradable. He's not going anywhere because they're not going to get fair value for him. And he ended up going somewhere. The Nationals and AJ Preller, they're making me eat my words. But from a value perspective, we had it as a little bit light, so maybe I was on the right track there. They didn't quite get fair value for him.
Right.
As far as the Padres go, just as a whole, and the fit with Soto and everything, there's John actually put out a tweet right after everything had wrapped up where he said, yep, after all the trades today, especially with how much they gave up for Juan Soto, they have the worst farm system in baseball by a pretty good margin. And that's true. But he ended that trade with, but they have Juan Soto. So like,
Yes.
There's a lot of prospect huggers out there who, I get it. You know, there's some of those top tier, upper echelon guys that you don't want to trade for pretty much anyone. You know, the Yankees have been hugging Anthony Volpe, and obviously the Mariners never traded Julio. The Orioles never traded Adley Rutschman. There's those upper tier guys that you just want to keep hanging on to as tightly as you can. But when you're in a spot like the Padres are, you've already got so much committed to the major league team. You have a GM like Preller who he really knows his stuff. He finds value in minor leaguers out of nowhere. He's really good at that.
Yeah.
And you have an opportunity like this on the table to get one of the best hitters ever for what he's done at his age. He's up there with Williams and Trout and Ty Cobb. I saw a few of those stats where through age 23, he's right up there with those guys. When you have that opportunity in front of you, you pull the trigger. I don't care what your farm looks like after. He's around for 2.5 years at least. You got Tatis forever. Machado's there for a while. Build that core, especially if you're a franchise like San Diego that hasn't had much success. Build that core and go try and win a couple championships. I respect the hell out of it. It destroyed their farm, but that's what the farm system's for. It's either for developing young major leaguers like they did with Tatis, or it's for going out and getting the guy you want. So kudos to them.
You know, the whole goal, you know, we've heard that from the Brewers where they say they feel like their best chance is, you know, being in it every year, where, you know, there's other people that take a different approach. You know, sometimes the goal at the end of the day is to win a World Series, right? And I understand it's a business too, and you want sustainability. You don't want to be, you know, the Red Sox, I think they realized that with themselves. They didn't like the, you know, just the yo-yo of, you know, winning a World Series and then finishing last the next year. They want that consistency. But to me, the Padres, I think people forget that the Padres spent a long time building up that farm, like an incredibly long amount of time. They were out of it for a bit. They spent years building up that farm system, and they're in a spot finally. And I mean, yeah, this is at the end of the day, you got to give up something good to get something good. And this is exactly what they needed to do. I mean, they're obvious winners of this deadline. It wasn't even just this deal. I mean, we can sit here and talk the Soto deal all day. We can talk the values all day. But when you are looking at what they did as a whole, like, I mean, it's just nutty. I mean, look at what they did here. They started off with Hader. I mean, were you in the same boat with me where I'm thinking, like, I just thought Hader was just not going to go anywhere? Like, I figured once we stopped hearing about him, and then all of a sudden when you stop hearing about him, he's gone. And it's like, it came out of nowhere. Like when there wasn't any rumors. I mean, my goodness, how did you feel about the Hader move?
Yeah, you're right. It kind of came out of nowhere. It feels like the last few deadlines and off seasons, there's always been this little buzz about Hader. You know, it's been like 2 or 3 years now that everyone's trying to get the Brewers to trade Hader, and they're listening to offers, but they haven't pulled the trigger. And I feel like this deadline, there was the least buzz about it. Maybe it was because everyone was so focused on Soto and Castillo and Montas, and he was kind of an afterthought there. But it makes a lot of sense for the Brewers with how much money he's going to be making next year. He's not having the best season he was, and then his July was pretty awful.
Rough month.
Yeah, and we might talk about the Brewers and their moves on a whole later on, so I'm not going to get too far into it. But it made sense for them to move in. Also makes all the sense in the world for the Padres to go get their guy. It seems like they've been interested in him a long time, and that's one thing Preller isn't afraid to do. If he likes a guy, a lot of the time he's just going to go get him and not worry too much about it. I do have maybe some questions about how the entire payroll system works out next season for the Padres.
Yeah.
They've been really placing a lot of emphasis on staying under the luxury tax because they're not the largest market team, and their ownership hasn't shown that year after year they're going to press up to the tax like the Dodgers or the Mets or the Yankees. They're not in that tier. They're in kind of uncharted territory from a budget standpoint. And he's going to be making a lot of money. Soto's getting a raise. Tatis gets more expensive every year. Machado's still there. They just locked up Joe Musgrove, it wasn't a trade, but it was arguably one of their better moves of this trade season. He's fantastic, and they got him for a pretty good price, but it's still more than they're paying him now. So everybody's getting more expensive, and they're going to have some decisions to make. Wouldn't be too surprised if he was flipped again, but it kind of depends on the money stuff, and that's a problem for down the road. Right now, you got easily top 3 closer in the game, even with his last rough month, and they already have a pretty solid bullpen, so it's making a strength even stronger, and that's really what they did up and down their whole team this deadline.
Yeah, and that is a good question. I had that as a super chat yesterday. Is what is going to happen with Soto? I would imagine if they brought him in, you got to be thinking here that they want to sign him long term. I mean, that would be crazy to me if they didn't even have that thought. I mean, you're going to have him for this year and then the next 2 seasons. I don't know. If you were to just kind of throw a prediction out there, do you feel like he ends up signing there long term, or do you think he ends up hitting the free agent market?
I think they have to play it kind of slow. You're not gonna. I don't think you're gonna hear any news in the next couple months that they're getting close. Yeah, it's off season at the earliest, maybe even another year from now. Just because they're gonna want him to get himself established there, get comfortable in San Diego. It's sidebar. It's one of my favorite cities in the world, and I think he's gonna love it there, especially playing with Tatis and Machado. That's pretty huge.
Yeah. That's huge.
But they're gonna want to let him get settled. They know right now the price is gonna be exorbitant. It's always going to be exorbitant, but right now you're extending him, you're buying out his 2 arbitration years, and there's going to be some disagreement on how he should be paid for those, because arbitration, just the way the system works, it's not going to pay him what he's actually worth. He's going to have his salaries kind of suppressed, and I bet in an extension offer he's going to say, hey, bump up those couple years a couple $1 million. If I'm locking up long term, I need a bit more money those 2 years. So I bet they, at least for this first year, maybe take it year to year. Talk about it more late next off season or the one after that, even when he's more comfortable. And I think they got a shot. You have to really squint, just because I believe Machado's on the roster another 5 or 6 years, and it's at $30 million a year. And then Tatis, it's another 5 years or so until his contract gets more expensive. It's pretty backloaded, so I think it's 4 or 5 years until it gets into the $20-25 million range. So maybe there's a slow ramp up there, and Joe Musgrove has 5 years beyond this one now, making $20 million per. And so if you were to add Soto making $35-40 million onto that payroll, it's a little tough for those first few years. You're going to be committing, off the top of my head, I don't know, at least $100 million to those 4 guys alone. Probably a little more than that even. So that's tough to do. We've seen with the Angels, they've kind of done that with Trout and Upton, Pujols, Rendon, Hamilton back in the day. All these guys that they've kind of hamstrung their team a little bit by committing so much of their payroll to these couple guys, even in Trout's case when he deserves every penny and more. So I'll believe it when I see it. I think they want to. It's just more of a question of if they realistically can.
Yeah, it's going to be a big time question, and it's a fair question. And I thought the Cardinals, I mean, they had a couple of big contracts too, but I don't know. It just felt like it just seemed more of Fernando Tatis Jr. is going to be on that payroll for a long time. Machado as well. I think Arenado and Goldschmidt were coming off the books sooner. It just seemed like a good fit to me. I think in the end, we can agree that, because me and John, we both thought the Cardinals were the best fit. I really thought that. I really did. I think in the end, though, I guess a lesson learned maybe. And, I've known this too, but now that I've really seen it with a player like this, I can kind of expect it moving forward. If you're trading away a big player like that, you want as much volume as you can. And I think with the Cardinals, you had a big piece in Carlson. You had Walker. You had Mason Wynn. You had a couple other guys maybe in the $5 to $10 million range. But I think they saw the Padres offer. They just saw more pieces that had more, like I said, better value. Maybe not as high as like a Dylan Carlson, obviously. But you had an Abrams. You had more there. You had just more volume. And I think in the end, that's what won out. And who knows what the Cardinals, I would love to have been a fly on the wall, the Cardinals trying to talk about it. I wonder if they end up falling out. I remember, you had you had Rizzo and the Cardinals GM where they ended up like sitting down together during the game, and there was like a picture of them shaking hands or whatever. Like, people were like, "Whoa, is a deal done?" Oh my goodness! But in my gut, I remember thinking, I didn't really read into it too much, but I also thought, maybe the Cardinals kind of know that they're out of it, maybe, and so he just went over there like, "Hey, what's up, man? How you doing? No hard feelings, blah blah blah." So I wonder if it really came down to like the Padres and the Dodgers, and I think, and in the end, I've been saying this too with the Dodgers, their big piece was a catching prospect, and who was also very close, we're close to getting to Major League ready. So I wonder if that was maybe a thing where they just liked the package with the Nationals better. I don't think it was the Dodgers didn't have enough. I just think they preferred the Nationals or the Padres or the Padres package. Sorry. Is that what you were thinking too? Or, what were you thinking?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I also think the Dodgers just weren't quite as incentivized as the Padres were.
Yeah.
The Padres have this long history of being pretty mediocre, and then they've been good the last few years, but a little disappointing last year. Well, meanwhile, the Dodgers have just been dominating the division every season. They've won a World Series. People have their complaints about it, 2020, whatever, but it's a World Series.
Yeah.
they won it. They got a ring.
Yeah.
And they might have some other issues cropping up down the road that might be more pressing. Soto's a bit more of a luxury for the Dodgers than he was for the Padres. I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but Shohei Ohtani might look kind of good in Dodger blue. It might be a good fit for the roster. A trade is probably never happening between those teams with him, but once he does hit free agency.
Yeah, I think what happened with, shift gears a little bit, but I think Ohtani, what ended up happening there, I just think business is business. Like, dude, that bobblehead probably sells there's probably like 1 million bobbleheads that get sold in jerseys and shirts and everything. I mean, the Angels probably like, no, like it's not worth it, like business wise, because you're not paying him anything. And it's like you're bringing in so much revenue. If you trade him, well, then no one's going to be coming to your games. I mean, people, it's like, all right, cool. Let's go see the Angels. They're not that great, but Ohtani's here, so.
And for as much of it sells in the United States, twice as much sells in Japan.
Oh, yeah, they got all that too.
Yeah, they have so many different camera angles covering every single Angels game over there for good reason, because he's incredible. He's their guy. And I think I totally agree with you. Even if you could make an argument for it working from a baseball only standpoint, which I don't know if I would. I know some have. But yeah, from a business standpoint, you just can't. You can't.
Yeah, I mean, there is the argument. It's like keep the guy, go into the off season, go make moves, like go get some guys. Like they did make moves this past off season. It's just, I don't know. Anyway, but I digress. We'll talk about them in a little bit. We did have another super chat coming in. Con Man, that's not the right one. That was from earlier. I'm sorry about that. Con Man, thank you again though. We had Riley Turner. Ooh, I love ESPN. My favorite. Did you see what ESPN wrote about the Red Sox deadline? It's like they haven't watched the Red Sox all year. They called Diekman their best lefty reliever. Oh, ESPN is just garbage. I hate ESPN. Sorry. Thank you, Riley. I appreciate you. ESPN continues to prove they're just absolutely terrible. JM1231. Castillo looked awesome today. That's a good segue. And actually, I have here a little bit of a setup. Hold on a second.
Could I actually?
I got a little teeter maker going on. I got winners and losers.
Note in on the Padres before we move on.
Oh yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the one move I want to talk about that our model didn't like for them was the Eric Hosmer deal. Let's talk about that. Yeah. Originally he was included in the Soto thing, and it would have made the deal a little closer actually with the amount of money that they were going to be eating in the Soto deal, but the way they were doing it was they were going to eat his 2023 to 2025 salaries, and the Nationals were going to pay his 2022, which would have helped out the Padres with their current budget with the luxury tax. What ended up happening after Hosmer nixed the deal is they traded Hosmer and 2 prospects to the Red Sox, ate all of Hosmer's money down to the major league minimum, and got 1 prospect in return in Jay Groom. Yeah. And that one ended up it was one of the 4 deals that was rejected by the model. this deadline, and it's because we actually have Hosmer with just a little bit of field value left. And so he wasn't fully underwater all of his salary. And so they paid him by paying all of his salary. He has positive value now. Plus they tacked on those 2 prospects, and all they got back was the 1 in return. And the reason that happened is because they just had no leverage. Everyone in baseball knew that the Soto and Bell trade was agreed to. It was happening. And to make room for Bell on the roster, they had to get rid of Hosmer. No matter how they did it, they just had to get rid of him. And so Chaim Bloom, we just had a Red Sox super chat. Chaim Bloom, in a very, very smart move, he says, I'm going to take advantage of this.
Yeah.
And he did. And he's very good at that. He's very good at finding value, at taking advantage of other teams' roster crunches. And so if the Padres no leverage, they can't say, we don't like this offer, we'll hang on to Hosmer. That's not an option for them. Yeah. So they just had to get him out of the organization however they could, and it ended up being a loss for them value-wise. Now, I don't think Preller's losing sleep over that. You could factor it into the Soto trade. If you count that all as kind of one trade from a value standpoint, he still won big time. He got Juan Soto.
And just to add to that, and one thing that I think gets left out here is they gave up a lot of prospects, but I got to say here, Jay Groom was a first-round pick back in 2016. He had Tommy John. His value is definitely diminished, but he's had a pretty decent year in the minors this year. I actually liked the Padres being able to bring back a pretty decent pitching prospect, even though the big thing is, them giving up all of these prospects. They were still able to find a way to bring in a young guy like that. Like, that was, I think, pretty solid in the end. They also brought in Brandon Drury too. It's funny, this is a good piece on the market, but no one's talking about it. No one's even talking about Josh Bell. Like, that's crazy. Josh Bell might be I feel like so bad for him, because it's like he's having such a good year, but no one even remembers that Bell even went in that deal.
Well, I feel worse for Luke Voigt, but that's another.
Oh, that too, man. But yeah, the Eric Hosmer thing. Like you said, Bloom, he's extremely good. And I honestly really think this. I think when he interviewed with the Red Sox, he sat down, John Henry, Tom Werner, they're like, all right, what can you do for our farm system? I guarantee you, he said, if I have money to work with, I can rebuild that farm. And they're like, all right, how do you do that? Well, trade away all our pieces. No, we're actually going to take on bad contracts, and we're going to get prospects with it too. And they're probably like, oh wow, we've never heard of that before. It's like so simple when you think about it, but you don't see it as much. And you've seen Bloom do it a lot over the last couple of years. And he has really helped rebuild this farm. I mean, they did it with the Jackie Bradley Jr. Trade with Renfroe, bringing in Alex Benelis and David Hamilton. Now you're bringing in Rozier and Ferguson. And, those guys are going to be, not really top 10, top 15, but more 20 to 30 range. And then, he did it with Christian Vasquez too, like, bringing in some high upside kind of guys. He's doing a great job with this farm. And I think for the Red Sox, I liked it. I thought it was hilarious because I'm sitting here on Twitter and I'm talking, saying, oh my God, I hope Hosmer blows this deal up. Please make it happen. It needs to happen. I need to see the world just burn.
Just excellent content.
And then 10 minutes later, he's on the Red Sox. And I'm like, what? Like, what's going on right now? That was the weirdest thing. But yeah, I think for the Reds, that was, and they needed to do it. You can't have Hosmer and Bell on the roster. So the fact that was another thing that came around too as a talking point is, why didn't they approach Hosmer beforehand about it? But in my opinion, I think he probably felt, all right, we'll do this deal. We'll present it to him. But we feel like even if he says no, we'll figure it out. Like, so a lot of people were getting onto them about that, saying like, that maybe wasn't the smartest thing. That's what I think they were thinking.
There's a little bit of something that might be a little shady, a little scummy to it. You wonder if they were maybe trying to pressure him into just going with it. Because if you go up to him ahead of time and you get the no answer, when you do the deal and you're like, hey, you're going to go? He's just going to say no again. He's already been primed. But if you kind of catch him off guard, and everyone on Twitter is talking about, and the whole Padres fan base is so excited about Soto, you're kind of pressuring him into it. You can't if it were the case where his inclusion was crucial and him saying no just killed the trade entirely, and the entire Padres fan base knows that they don't have Juan Soto because of Eric Hosmer, that's horrible.
They probably,
So,
I agree with you. They probably tried to, they knew they were going to get it done, and they probably just thought, all right, let's see if he'll do it. And they
doesn't hurt to try.
Because they're trying to get rid of the contract, and he knew that, but I don't think he knew that he would be in a Juan Soto deal. I think he thought he had heard the Cubs, the Mets, the Red Sox had even come up in the past, so I'm not surprised he ended up going there. I agree with you, because it's just the dynamic of it. It's Juan Soto. To me, power to him. Power to him that he declined it, because it's guy's got a family there out in San Diego, signed a long-term deal. He knows that there's a chance he could, a trade could come up, but he has that leverage where, call it leverage. He has that right to turn down a trade. And if he had turned it down and the whole thing just blew up, I wouldn't have been mad at him, because it's that's the whole point. It would have been not fair at all. For Padres fans would have hounded him, and that would have been disgusting in my opinion. That would have been awful. It's the guy has every right to turn down what he wants, and he had Washington on his no trade list, and that was that. And so
I think so. He didn't have the Red Sox on his no trade list,
no.
So it wasn't a case where he accepted going there. But I think it worked out okay for him. He's obviously, I wouldn't be thrilled if I was him to be leaving the Padres now that they have Soto, and Tatis is almost back, and he loves the team, the area. They love him in the clubhouse. I wouldn't be thrilled, but there's a lot of worse places you can go than Boston. They're clearly trying to win there. It's a ballpark that might help him out a little bit, maybe get his offensive numbers up a little bit. He's been a decent opposite field hitter. Maybe he uses the monster pretty well.
Right.
It's not the worst fit for him. Probably still doesn't love the move, but it's much better than going to Washington right now.
And this might sound kind of weird or backward, I don't know, but I feel like the Padres paying that money takes the pressure off a little bit, because he knows that the Red Sox fans know that the Red Sox aren't paying him anything. So I think that almost takes I would imagine that takes some mental pressure off of you a little bit. You're not having to press so much. New start, Fenway. If you play well, the people are going to love you. It's how it is. I bet you he's excited for it. I'm sure it was a shock at first, but it'll end up, sounding right in his head, I think. I don't know the guy, but I think it was a crazy, crazy day for the Padres. Crazy. And they got Brandon Drury. My goodness. That was the most under the radar thing. I didn't even see it when it happened. And then what? My God. But yeah, so I think we have to say here that the Padres are definitely winners. Let's move on to another team. I'll let you pick the next team. Who would you like to discuss next?
All right. Do you want me picking a winner or a loser?
You go either way. Whatever you want to do.
All right. I'm going to get my biggest losers out of the way.
Ooh,
sorry, White Sox fans.
Yes.
It's going to be your team. It's just the Twins made, and they'll be one of my winners. That's a spoiler, but they made 3 significant moves, added 3 very good pitchers to their roster. That was their biggest need by far, and they got 3 good ones, and they got a backup catcher, which they also needed. So they checked off every box. Meanwhile, the White Sox didn't really check any of them off. They did need a lefty in the bullpen, but they got one who hasn't been good this year at all. He's walking 7 guys per 9 innings.
Yes.
And he's owed guaranteed money next year. This was another one of our deals that was rejected by the model, was McGuire for Diekman. And there was a little bit of pushback on that. But even if you're going to argue and say that McGuire has 0 value, okay, I'll buy that. But Diekman is pretty confidently underwater with how poorly he's pitched, and he's not owed a ton of money, but he is owed guaranteed money, and that's worth considering. That's important.
Yeah.
But they had other needs. They had further pitching needs, even if it was just a depth arm or 2 in the rotation. Jordan Lyles, I don't care. Paul Blackburn. They needed something there, some sort of innings, and they really could have used more offense, particularly at second base, but possibly the outfield as well, or even just a couple bench bats. I don't know, Brandon Drury wouldn't have been horrible for them. the second base market wasn't as deep as it has been in years past. But hey, even if they give up a couple notable prospects for Ian Happ, that's a really good addition to their lineup. They were missing a lot. It's weird. They just haven't seemed to have any sense of urgency this season from either the front office or from Tony La Russa or from really anyone in the organization, and it's really frustrating the fans. They were the favorites coming into the year. They've been disappointing, and usually when that happens, you get aggressive and, our window might be closing in the next couple of years. We got to push some chips in, and instead they just kind of sat back and watched their biggest competitors get a lot better.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. I mean, I was just doing my grades video earlier, and I'm thinking like, all right, maybe I missed a deal that the White Sox made, and I'm like, okay, that was it. They got Diekman. Like that's the best you could do. And you gave up a good defensive catcher, like in Reese McGuire. Like Reese McGuire is not a scrub by any means. Like he plays great defense out there. He's one of the better defensive catchers out there. Doesn't really do anything with the bat, but I didn't get it. Like unless they feel like they can fix something with Diekman, maybe this was more of like a scouting department kind of a thing where they're like, all right, Diekman, he's not been great, but we see something where we feel like we can help him, and maybe he can end up being like a really good reliever down the, in the second half. That's the only thing that I could think of, because it's like, why? I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. When you look at the offense for the White Sox, they rank 16th in WRC plus on the year. Starting pitching, they're 16th as well in Fangraph WAR, and their bullpen's actually been the best aspect of their team. They rank 9th overall. So, they added to a bullpen that has been doing well. So I don't know. I guess
it did need a lefty. They lost Garrett Crochet for the year, and Aaron Bummer is out a little longer than they initially expected. So it did need a lefty, but I wouldn't even be complaining too much about them if they did that and also added a couple. If they added, like I said, if they added a Jordan Lyles and 2 bench bats in addition to that move, I'd say, okay, still not, I think you could have done better, but not terrible. You're not my biggest loser of the deadline.
Yeah. Like here's how I compare the White Sox, personal story. I used to play I used to be quite the player at the game Yu-Gi-Oh! I don't know if you ever played that game. Did you ever play that game, Yu-Gi-Oh?
I never played. I was a Pokemon guy, and but one of my cousins was into Yu-Gi-Oh!
But I would cash checks and snap necks at Yu-Gi-Oh! Like I'd just beat you down and I'd make you cry yourself to sleep that night. I was that good. And I will take that confidence to the grave with me. But I remember every week I would go to the bookstore, Books A Million, right? There was always like a gathering every Saturday. And there was always this one kid, right? He's always walking around. He had his binder of cards, but he never had anything good. He was never anything good that you could trade for. And he would always try to trade with you, and he just didn't have anything. And I'm like, no, I'm not giving this up for that. Like, what? Well, I'll give you this and this and this then. No, that's horrible. I'm not doing that. That's the White Sox, because they don't really have a lot anyway to deal from. Like they have some pieces there, but nothing flashy. Or I'm wondering if they were going around in the market, and that was maybe honestly the best they could do. Maybe, do you feel like that had something to do with it?
Yeah, John and I talked about this a lot early in the season when they were connected to Frankie Montas pretty heavily, and it came out that the A's were asking for Andrew Vaughn, and they said no. Hindsight 2020, Andrew Vaughn is one of their most reliable hitters. It looks like they were good to hang on to him there, but at that time, their farm system was like 5 or 6 guys in the like $8 to $10 million range in terms of trade values, and nothing else. Yeah. And so it was like, yeah, if you're going to get Montas, that's going to be the price. It's going to be Vaughn. He's the only one that matches up well. Since then, Colson Montgomery has actually kind of taken off for them. He's been a very good prospect, and he's shot up in value. I believe he's now at like the low 20s or so. Yeah. But they still have those other 4-ish guys, the Oscar Colas.
Yeah. There's another one.
Brian is his name. Yoelqui Cespedes. I think there's 2 others. They had those kind of mid-range guys, and they at least could have moved one of those guys for an impact player, or just shop at the bottom of the market then. Move some less attractive prospects, some of those $1, $2, $3 million guys, lottery ticket types.
Yeah.
and just get some cheap rentals. Like you just had to do something. The
Yeah,
team needed a boost.
I think it was a bit of a combination. I think they just, I don't know, they didn't have enough, or maybe they just didn't play it right. You know, because you got guys out there. I mean, look at the Padres. I mean, they've gone out and made moves before. Like, and it's like, how the heck did they get that deal done? Like, what? I remember when they almost got the deal done yesterday. I'm like, how the heck are they doing this? Like, what sorcery are they pulling here? Like, I don't understand. Like, I don't know. They have done some fleece jobs in the past, and yeah, but I think that kind of comes into play a little bit, just the strategy of maybe they were going about things. But yeah, I agree with you. The White Sox, man, the Twins, they've been running that division pretty much from the start, and the Guardians are right there in it too. You know, I don't know. I just felt like they could have done more. I mean, I guess you got something. I do think that is a scouting driven kind of a move. At least I would like to think. I'm more being optimistic about it, but maybe they just see something where they can get him, and then he could end up being like, who knows? He could end up being one of the better relievers in the second half. You never know. But anyway, let's move on here. Let's go on to the next team. Well, if we're going back to our winners and losers here, I'll go next. You know what? I'll pick you picked a loser here, so I'll pick a loser, so that way you can pick a winner for the next one. For a loser, I don't know if I want to do this one, because I don't know if I necessarily. You know what? I'm going to ask you. I'm not going to put him as a loser, because I want your opinion, because I am on the fence about this one. What do you think of the Mets?
So I think the Mets, I'm with you. I'm not putting them as a loser. I think I'd give them, A to F scale. I'd give them a C or a B, somewhere in that range. I do like what they did for their offense. They didn't get one of the big guys. It seems like the price on Wilson Contreras from Chicago was just too high. So good on them. They've under Steve Cohen in his new regime, they've been very calculated about what prospects they move and when. Mm-hmm. And so they didn't want to overpay for half a year of Contreras being more of a DH type anyway, because his glove isn't quite as good as it used to be. So, okay, go ahead, make these other moves instead on the fringes. I like them picking up guys like Naquin and Vogelbach, and they got Darren Ruff. The Darren Ruff deal was a little bit lopsided by our values. Mm-hmm. We didn't have Darren Ruff and JD Davis being too fundamentally different as players, but yeah. Hey, if you want production now and Ruff is hitting now and Davis isn't, go ahead, go for it. Yeah. But they made these kind of marginal moves that they're not sexy, and their fans might be a little bit upset with them, but they help. They help a lot down the stretch. They push Jeff McNeil to second base, where he's a better defender than the outfielder. They give them depth off the bench. They didn't get a catcher, but now they can pinch hit with Vogelbach or Naquin for James McCann and put in Tomas Nido after. So it's kind of a similar thing. They get to keep the guys with the good gloves and use a pinch hitter when they need to. So everything offensive, totally good with it. And it ended up kind of trickling down and helping their defense as well.
Yes.
They just didn't do nearly enough in the bullpen. They came into the deadline looking for a lefty, and they got Michael Gibbons, and he's not amazing.
He'll give you some strikeouts, but
mm-hmm. And there were lefties available is the problem. The Tigers, it seemed like they weren't super excited to move Gregory Soto. Okay, but they had Andrew Chafin, who's likely going to be a free agent after the year. He has a mutual option for next year, but those rarely get exercised by both sides. You could have talked to the A's about Sam Moll. He's having a good season. Cionel Perez of the Orioles. I mean, I don't know how much the Orioles were willing to dismantle their bullpen, but he's been very good. And there's a whole list of guys. Even Aaron Loop. I had him as a really good fit to go back to the Mets. He's
I would have loved
not having the best year for the Angels. They were clearly looking to cut costs a little bit. The Mets could have gotten him just for money, basically.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything. And it's a bit of a head scratcher to me. I think they needed help in the bullpen, especially since they traded Colin Holderman to get Vogelbach. So
yeah, I like what you said about the offense. They gave themselves some flexibility. They got some versatility here. They got some left-handed bats. Vogelbach is a power bat. Ruff has shown he's really good in those spots. I like what they did with the position players that they added, but the bullpen, I think, was somewhere they needed to add something. And you got Givens. I was wondering if they were going to maybe pull off the Robertson, Contreras package. And in the end, it just didn't happen. But I don't know. I just feel like they came up a little short. I wouldn't say they didn't have a bad deadline, but like you said, like a C, maybe even like a C minus kind of in that area. But like, I think they needed to add some pitching there. But I think at the end of the day, I think with the Mets, they felt getting DeGrom back was probably their big piece. That was their deadline acquisition, like getting him back. That's what I'm thinking here. But I'm with you. I like the different looks that they added to the bench, and because really they did their spending in the offseason. That was it, and they got DeGrom back. So the key is health for them. I will die laughing if they end up losing that division, and it would be just so the Mets to just not win that division. So I don't know, but one loser, maybe this is a little, I don't know. Maybe I'll get some flack for this one. Maybe I'll get some flack. I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. I feel like the Dodgers were a loser. What do you think?
That's interesting. It's tough with the Dodgers because they're already so good. And you can't expect them to pull off a Scherzer-Turner deal every single deadline. I mean, I'm not saying that you are. I'm not implying that you're expecting that.
Yeah, I just want to make that clear just because, But yes.
But yeah, they're a team that really only can upgrade on the margins, kind of. But you'd think in this season specifically, they did have a couple of weaknesses. Max Muncy and Cody Bellinger have been very rough. And I guess I don't hate them bringing in Joey Gallo. If any team can fix Joey Gallo, it's either the Dodgers or the Rays. And the Rays were never going to get him from the Yankees. So it's the Dodgers. And he can play first base and he can play outfield. So if you get him right, then boom, one of Bellinger or Max Muncy is going to the bench and he's starting every day. Yeah. So I guess he works in that sense. So offensively, I'm not too upset with it, especially because Muncy and Bellinger are both guys you're pretty heavily committed to. They're not super easy to just go out and get an upgrade over, and you don't want to trade a Max Muncy away unless you have to because of what he can be and what he has been.
Yeah.
And they also have some depth on the farm. They just called up Miguel Vargas. He's an exciting prospect. James Outman's been very good for them in his short stint in the big leagues. So they're one of those teams that can kind of upgrade from within. I think they could have done more on the pitching side. I'm blanking. Did they actually add any pitchers? I think they might have had one.
They did get Chris Martin.
Yes, that was it.
Chris Martin.
And that's not bad at all. I like him. Yeah. I feel like they could have used one or two more arms like him. But they also have Dustin May coming back, and he's looked really good on his rehab stint. And if he can come back, and whether he's a power arm out of the bullpen or he slots into the rotation, that's a valuable piece for them. So they wouldn't be in my top 5 lowest losers or anything.
Yeah. But I think it's just where I'm coming from. I think it's more just because they have that luxury of that farm. And to be completely honest with you, I almost got that gut feeling where I didn't think they were really motivated. They did the move last year. It didn't work out. It didn't get them a World Series. Scherzer ended up not pitching in the playoffs, and then he blamed them for it. And then so it's that probably left a bad taste in their mouth. And they got Turner, so that's good. But I just feel like you got some money, or not money, but you got assets. You can go make something. I like the Chris Martin move, better FIP than his ERA, so that's nice. Gallo, sure. They probably feel like they can do something with him. And in the end, watch, Gallo will come up big for him at some point in the season. Look what they did it with Pujols last year. Pujols is even good. I just feel like they could have done something. You got the pieces. I'm not saying they have to every single year. I'm not saying either that they needed to go out and get, Pablo Lopez, but they had been in the mix for Soto, whatever. No one's ever, you can't get Soto every day, but then there was some talk of Ian Happ, and then there was talk of Pablo Lopez, and then they were talking, and they probably get, in the end, they just felt like they couldn't pull off a deal. I'm surprised Happ ended up staying. I guess maybe I'm also not a little surprised because I think the Cubs can end up being a decent offseason buyer. I don't know, they were trying for Correa last offseason, so maybe they feel like they could put a winning team together quicker than you might think. So they weren't maybe necessarily too motivated to move Hap, but the Dodgers were in on a few different guys there, and you heard their name popping up, and they just they came away with Gallo and Martin. It's not bad. I'm more talking about, I'm thinking World Series here, for the Dodgers. I'm not thinking about just making the playoffs. To me, it's like the Padres just, they showed you up here. And but who knows? In the end, who knows? Maybe the Padres end up losing in the wild card round, and then we're whatever. It doesn't even matter at that point. But that's just my opinion. I know the Dodgers, Outman's been doing really good. Like you said, May, come back later on. They got prospects where they don't have to really go out necessarily and go get someone. They can just go from within. I just feel like it just felt flat, like just considering what they are. And John raves about their farm system. He'll just talk about it for days, and that's just where I'm coming from.
Yeah, I think you could argue that in the long term, they win a little bit.
Yes.
Because
they can't keep going out there and making moves.
Yeah, there's a cap somewhere on the money, and even if there's not a cap on the money, there's a cap on how many spots you have on the field. So if you sign $100 million guy to play every position, and one of them stinks, what are you going to do? Go get another one? And they have such a good farm and just a player development machine where they just turn everybody into a solid prospect, and they seem like they're going to be able to keep doing that year after year, and they have all that. While meanwhile, the Padres just obliterated their farm system.
Right.
So in the longer term, which is probably where they're looking right now, they win. But I think in that short to medium term, maybe not for this year, because the Dodgers already have such a large lead banked over the Padres. They're pretty much guaranteed to win the division. The Dodgers are. So maybe not in the short term, but I think for next year and the year after, they're going to be fighting with the Padres now that the Padres got Soto, and now that Preller is extra incentivized to push every chip he has in and make that team as good as it can be. I think they're really going to see the repercussions of this deadline in the next couple, and maybe by hanging on to people now, they have so many assets to move in the offseason and make other upgrades. If Bellinger keeps going like this, I believe he has 1 year of arbitration remaining, but if he keeps playing like this, he's a non-tender. And they're going to need to find a way to fill his spot. And so maybe they're really going to be happy that they have all these prospects kept that they hung on to, and they can go get a Brian Reynolds or a Ramon Laureano or some big center field addition to really lengthen their lineup. Yeah.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to add a tier. I'm going to add a row below. Let's make it, I don't know. Let's go green. I'll do, I don't know, in between. And I'll put the Dodgers in the middle. Kind of like, you know what I mean? Just, wait, hold on. I don't want, why is this, what's going on here? That's red. There we go. All right, let's make that green. Actually, no, I like yellow. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like the Dodgers, they could have done a little bit more. And, but I definitely agree with what you're saying, because you can't keep going out there and just making all these big deals all the time. You got to start thinking of, all right, okay, we had our fun there, but all right, we got to kind of cool it down here. So could have done a little more. I'll go in between. I think that's safe. And I'll put the Mets there too. Maybe you could have done a little bit more, but not necessarily a winner or a loser, but you're kind of in that middle spot. So I'll let you take the next one. Who you got? You can pick a winner or a loser.
All right. My next winner is the Cincinnati Reds.
Yes.
They did excellent.
Yes, they did.
Most of that is the Luis Castillo deal. We actually had them just a little bit under on their other major deals. On Brandon Drury, they got a little less than we expected them, and same with Tyler Mahle, just a little bit less. But they just blew everyone out of the water with the Luis Castillo deal. It was Noel V. Marte and, oh my goodness, I did this the other day. What's his first name? Arroyo.
Edwin Arroyo.
Edwin. Yes, I always want to say Hector Arroyo. Don't know.
I know what you mean.
But Noel V. Marte on his own was almost as valuable as as Castillo in our model. And so they added on a guy with a lot of helium in Arroyo, he's in like the $20-ish million range. And then Stout, he's a bit of a fringier pitching prospect, but he's got a chance to be a starter. And Andrew Moore even has some helium. His value is still pretty low, but he throws 100 out of the bullpen, and guys are really liking him. So just a great package. I saw some concerns that the Reds now just have a ton of infielders on the farm, which who cares?
Right.
The best part about having middle infielders up and down your farm is they're typically the most athletic players on the field. They can learn other positions. Not every one of them is going to be a true shortstop. I'm thinking a guy like Ellie De La Cruz, one of their top prospects. He's a giant. He's almost, not quite, but almost an O'Neill Cruz type.
Yeah. 6'5".
Yeah. There's been predictions of him moving to third base or even into the outfield or something. And so the situation will sort itself out. Not every one of these guys will make it to the big leagues as a shortstop for sure. So don't worry too much about the positional issue. But I believe they're up to either 6th or 7th in our farm rankings. And they were in like the middle of the pack before. They just did really well in all these deals. Spencer Steer, the headliner for Tyler Mahle, he's got a lot of helium this year as well. They've been doing a good job of, I wouldn't call it buying high on guys, but they're picking guys up as they're on, their arrow is trending up.
Yeah, getting them at the right time.
Yeah, the question is always, okay, are they getting them at the peak and they're about to come down a little bit, or are they getting them before they skyrocket up and suddenly it's a Fernando Tatis Jr. situation with the White Sox and James Shields? So there's always that question there, but they've got some really exciting guys now, and I think it's still a rebuild. Still going to take them a couple years before they're really any good.
Yeah.
But they made all the right moves here. You can't not like what they've done here. And once they've already committed to the rebuild, you got to go all in, and that's what they're doing.
Absolutely. I agree with you. I mean, what a heck of a package they got for the Mariners. Like that to me, what I was saying this when I reacted to that trade, I'm thinking here, there were teams that were right there, like probably down to a few teams there. I guarantee the Yankees, they were trying to push, and they just couldn't get it done. But there were teams in that mix, and I think the Mariners at the last second just be like, all right, you know what? We'll give you Edwin Arroyo. Like, let's just get this done. Like, I think they just said, if you turn this down, you're not smart. Like, I think they did that. I think they forced the issue. Because if you look at the trade with just Marte and then who are the other? It was Marte, Stout, and Moore. Yeah. It was actually pretty even. It was, I think it was like $1 million difference about. So I'm thinking like, okay, Arroyo had to be like a throw-in here. Like I want to say, I don't want to say a throw-in, but you know what I mean? Like,
kind of the tipping point.
They just sweeten the pot as much as you could, because those three players, it was approved by the simulator. It's actually extremely even. So that was my theory behind it. I don't know, because I don't think I think Marte was the piece you started with, and then Stout I feel like was a nice piece to throw in that, and then you had another. So, I think they just couldn't turn it down.
You wonder if they maybe had two frameworks going, one of them around Marte, one of them around Arroyo, with another, $10 to $20 million piece in there.
Yeah.
Maybe even a Kelenic, who knows? But, they had those two kind of going concurrently, and then the Mariners said, we want the guy. We'll give you both of the infielders.
I wonder if Kelenic maybe was someone that was, and they were like, all right, make it Arroyo and it's done. I kind of I don't know why I was getting like the Moneyball movie vibes when they're going for Ricardo Rincon, and like, they're calling and like teams are going back and forth. That's kind of the vibe I was imagining with Castillo, and they just pulled the trigger and they just said, all right.
We had that one as a major overpay by the Mariners. It was, just barely made it in by being accepted by the model. But major overpay doesn't always mean it's a bad trade by any means.
That's where it comes to philosophies,
Yeah. The Mariners specific, like all of our values are on the aggregate. It's for, here's what the average team would value this player at. But different teams value different things, and the Mariners, they have every incentive to just push some pieces in. They're in a playoff spot right now, and they haven't made it there in 20 years. They have every incentive to overpay a little bit, just go get their guy and worry about the rest of it down the road. And it helps that he's a guy with an extra year of control. They think they're going to be good next year as well, and they have a lot of good young pitching that needs to develop a little bit. So even if they do lose him after next year, theoretically they can fill him in, fill that spot in down the line with some of their young pitching.
Mm-hmm.
And so it doesn't always have to just be about value. Sometimes it's we really want this guy. We're in the ballpark here. Yeah, maybe on a value standpoint we're losing a little bit, but we're going to get our guy we want to win. It's
Absolutely.
to a much lesser extent, similar to the Aroldis Chapman trade to the Cubs. Much, much lesser extent. We're not talking as big of an overpay or as just as long of a drought, as much urgency from the Mariners side as the Cubs had. But I kind of liken it along those lines. You're willing to pay a little bit more to get your guy when you're in that spot.
I love that. Yeah, I completely agree. And for me, I'm going to have the Mariners as a winner because to me, they went out, they got their guy. Like, because that's what they needed. Because when you're looking at this rotation, or before he got included, he did great today in his debut with the Mariners, struck out 8, I believe. But when you were looking at this rotation before, it just felt like it was good, but like it, you know what it kind of reminded me of, and I almost wonder if the Mariners were thinking the same thing. It kind of reminded them of their 2001 rotation, right? Because that offense was so good, they had good defense, but their starting pitching, they had good starters, but when it came to like playoff pitching, it kind of showed a little bit where it came up short, and I think they were thinking, all right, we gotta go get Luis Castillo. Like, this is the guy. Like, this is the guy that's going to carry us. If we're in a playoff series, he can put the team on your back. That's the kind of guy that he is. And I love that addition. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. Yes, they had to give up a boatload for him, but that's what you have to do if you want to go win. And if you're motivated, you got to go do it. And they also added Casali and Boyd. I think Boyd is going to be coming back soon. I believe. Is there any update on him? No, it just says but I think he is coming back soon. So
yeah, and they want to use him out of the bullpen.
Yeah, and that's just going to be a good arm for you. I mean, you did get Lamb too. Is Lamb on there? And that's someone for their bench too. I thought they had a great deadline. I thought that was fantastic. To me, the Mariners are a winner. You pretty much just dove into it all already, but that's my thinking behind it. It's like, that rotation looked okay. Ray hasn't really totally lived up to what they thought he was going to be, which honestly, I kind of saw that one coming anyway. I saw some regression with him. But, I think you just needed something else. So I think Castillo is a perfect fit. And to me, the Mariners are a winner. So I'll give you the next one.
One last note on the Mariners, actually. I would have liked a bigger infield bat for them. I thought Brandon Drury made a lot of sense. Didn't happen, obviously. Lamb isn't too bad of a consolation prize, but he is just a bench guy. He's not someone you want to give too many starts to. And then as far as the rotation goes with adding Castillo to it, there's a lot of uncertainty there with guys like Logan Gilbert and George Kirby. Very talented, obviously, but they just haven't been there before. They haven't proven it. And
there's the innings too.
Yeah, exactly. And then the one last factor is there's a shot that the Mariners have to play in Toronto in the playoffs. And Robbie Ray won't be available unless something changes in between now and then. He couldn't make the trip there earlier in the season. So Castillo gives you a bona fide frontline guy. It's such a niche scenario that I don't think it's the kind of thing that fully motivated the trade, but it is a nice little, side effect of the trade that they for sure have a frontline guy available to them.
For sure. Oh yeah. I didn't even think about that. That's awesome. So it's just an all around great move. You didn't even do much else. I agree with you. Drury would have been nice. Frazier has really not been that guy for them at a second base. Would have been cool if they could have added a bat, but their offense, I feel like, has been pretty good. I think they just feel like, Frazier has also been hitting a little bit better over the past week. He ranks 36 in the power rankings. So he's been hitting better. So they probably just feel like they were okay with him. Adam Frazier, the guy's a pro, so I think they're going to be fine. But I love the Mariners with this. I think that was a great move. And but yeah, well, who is your next team? You can go whatever you want, winner or loser or in between, whatever you want.
So I saw a super chat from, I think it was a while ago.
You know what?
Somebody
Actually,
asked,
here, let me
yeah.
I have seen. I'm sorry. What was the super chat? Let me pull that one up.
The one I saw, I think it was either the most recent or second most recent about the Giants.
Oh boy, here we go. I got to backtrack. I
Jimmy
will get to the
Productions.
super chats, everyone. I am sorry. Jimmy Productions. How do you think the Giants did? Ooh, this is a good one.
So I have them as a loser.
I'm with you.
It's probably not exactly for the reason that a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people are going to say they're a loser because they didn't trade Rodon and they could have gotten a pretty good return for him. Or a lot of people are going to say they're the losers because they sold anybody. They didn't just either keep the band together or go out and add a few pieces. I think it's because they went for kind of the Heimblum approach. The Red Sox play both sides of it. The Brewers did a little bit of that. That's been a pretty trendy decision the last few years, is to buy and sell. They went for that approach, but they didn't go all in with it. They got cold feet. They sold a couple, additional pieces. I do like in a vacuum. I like the Darren Ruff trade for them. I think like I said, I think JD Davis is just a younger Darren Ruff, and he's needed full playing time for a while now, and I think he's going to have pretty close to that opportunity there. So I like him as a pickup for them, and they got some extra prospects out of that good on them. But they're a team that in recent years really hasn't flexed the financial muscle the way they should, the way they're able to. They have a very loyal fan base. They had a very long sellout streak for a while. It was a little bogus. There were some of those sellouts where there were like maybe 15,000 people actually there, but they got a good fan base. They're absolutely dominating the Bay Area market right now. The A's have nothing on them. Yeah. They could be doing a lot more than this, and then they have been doing even in the off season. And you can make the arguments that they're waiting for their guy. They were in on Stanton. They were in on Harper. They've been trying a little bit. I again don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but I love Shohei Ohtani as a fit there.
Oh yeah,
if he makes it to free agency, or even if he doesn't, they're a team that could maybe pull off a trade for it down the line. But
yeah,
you have an opportunity to. I'm not telling you to go all in. I'm not telling you to trade Marco Luciano right now, but they should have been involved in some of these kind of salary related trades. Like, I don't know, the Raisel Iglesias trade to the Braves was a little bit weird. That one was another one that was rejected by the model. And it's the second time they've done something like that. The Braves also traded for Mark Melancon when we thought his contract was underwater, and they gave up significant prospects for him. But a trade like that, where they're taking on a sizable contract, but also a talented player who's going to help the team. I thought that made a ton of sense for them, and kind of threading the needle the way that Heimblum did. And I know Farhan Zaidi's smart. I know he can do it. I wonder if just something is holding him back, if ownership is getting a really tight wallet. I don't know. So that's the thing. Like, I wasn't saying going into the deadline, yeah, they need to fully sell or fully buy. I'm okay with them kind of threading the line, but they only got halfway there, and that's what bugs me.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because they added a couple of back end pieces in their top 30 on pipeline, Seymour and Zwak. They got JD Davis, who I honestly feel he has shown he can hit. It's just a matter of like just him staying on the field. And I feel like he's going to have a better opportunity here with San Francisco. He's under control for a couple of years. They did a couple of things that I didn't mind, but I'm with you in the fact that I feel like it just fell short a little bit, because that's kind of where I'm at, like, in a way, with the Dodgers. Like, you felt like you could have done a little more. So, but I kind of agree with you. It's like, yeah. And like, you could say the same about the Red Sox, where, I am shocked JD Martinez is still with the team. Like, I'm shocked, like, unless they just felt like, okay, all right, well, we're still trying to win. So they had that argument for them going. So did the Red Sox go in all in? To me, I think the Red Sox, they didn't add any pitching. I'm kind of like, it felt a little empty. Like, they did a lot, but it's like, oh, but why didn't you do this? And it's like, I understand you can't have everything you want all the time, but I'm with you on the Giants. Like, it just feels like they could have, at least with the Red Sox, they had some flashiness there. You brought in Pham, you brought in Hosmer. You brought in some pieces. You brought in Reese McGuire, and you got prospects too. The Giants brought in pieces, but just weren't as they like those guys. They liked the JD Davis. Like maybe not everyone else will. That's it almost kind of feels like that's just such a Giants kind of a thing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
All right, yeah, no one else likes that guy, but we like him. We like JD Davis. Where the Red Sox are bringing in Hosmer and, Pham, people that, slap people in the face over fantasy football, and they like to go relax in their car in the parking lot and just, I'm not going to, never mind. That was a bad joke. I'm not getting into that. Family friendly show. But yeah, so yeah, the Giants, I see where you're coming from. I see
one overall kind of feeling I got from the deadline. And I mean, I know it's the way it always is. The deadline always goes down to the wire. Most of the activity is always on deadline day. That's just how it works. And every deadline, there's going to be a few teams that say, yeah, we just couldn't make all the deals we wanted to. There wasn't enough time. Teams weren't willing to dance with us enough. It felt like there was a lot more of that than usual this year. And it felt like almost all of the deadline was on deadline day and the day before. There wasn't much at all leading up to it. I think there's two factors that might have led to that. One of them being the expanded playoffs. Teams are trying to figure out how to navigate the market. With the expanded playoffs, there's fewer just surefire sellers. And so those sellers are asking for a king's ransom for their guys because they know a week or two before the deadline, they're the only team that's willing to sell anything. Mm-hmm. So the A's are asking the moon for Montas. The Reds are asking the moon for Castillo because at that point, a week, 2 weeks before the deadline, one of those kind of bubble teams like the Angels or the Marlins or whoever, they haven't decided what they're doing yet. So if you want an arm early, you got to go to those teams. So that's part of it, I think, that just nobody knew quite how to balance out the buyers and sellers and what the price on everyone should be because of the expanded playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I also think Juan Soto played a big role in it. Yeah. A lot of dominoes kind of fell from that. Not because there's so much competition for Soto and so many teams were waiting to see where he would go, but more because the Padres had their hands in a lot of different teams, a lot of different players, a lot of different bowls, and all of it kind of hinged on Soto. And I think the Cardinals probably had a lot of the same thing going on. The Cardinals probably didn't want to get Soto for all of their prospects and also trade Bader away for Jordan Montgomery and also do this and that. So a lot of that was probably a little held up by Soto. And it's a good thing that Soto happened so early in the day on Tuesday and allowed some other stuff to get done. But I think there were a lot of incomplete trade deadlines. I think even Chaim Bloom said something about, I didn't make as many trades as I planned on today. I expected to make way more. And so I think there was kind of that sentiment across the league with him, with the Giants, I think the White Sox had a couple comments like that. So I wonder if things are, and the other factor is the season got off to a late start.
That too.
We're not quite at the point we usually are at the deadline. So maybe teams aren't working with as much information. Yeah. There's the nonsensical decision to push the draft later in the year and have it kind of conflicting with the trade deadline. So front offices don't get to evaluate deadline moves for as long a period of time. Whole bunch of factors. I think helps explain teams like the Giants and Red Sox.
And that's a good point that you mentioned. I wonder if the Cardinals also thought in the Soto talks, I wonder if they thought, you know what, we need pitching. We can't hang around in this Soto market forever. Like we have to go do, because like it would be great to get Soto, but we have no pitching and we need to go get pitching. And they're probably thinking like, all right, this market is a little wackadoodle right now. Like we need to, no one knows what's going on. We're going to have to take ourselves out of this because then look what happened. They ended up getting Quintana and Cardinals. I think they had themselves a pretty nice deadline. But also, I want to put in one more thing. You mentioned earlier with the Giants, they're looking for their guy. You know who I think that guy? I'm going to make a bit of a prediction here. I wonder if they go after Rafael Devers when he's a free agent. I wonder about that. I don't know. Just has a nice vibe to it. And it has a ring to it. Rafael Devers in a Giants uniform. I don't want that. But I wonder if maybe that's a guy they go after, like a left-handed bat like that. I don't know. I wonder, they're going to get their guy eventually. I don't know who it's going to be, but that's one guy. He's going to be a free agent soon. I wonder if they got his name circled. They already got him on the whiteboard, you know?
He hit so many balls into the cove.
Oh my God. Like, he would be insane there. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. That was one guy. I was wondering if maybe the Red Sox were going to look into moving him, but nah. Anyway, before we do move on, I do just want to point out a couple of super chats. We had one from Jimmy Productions. Robbie, are you mad the Red Sox traded Jay Groom? I mean, I'm not mad at it. You know, you got a couple of prospects back. I wish Bloom would add more pitching prospects. Like, he's adding so many position players. Like, it's like so many of them. Like, I just want pitching. Like, I don't ever get, I think because I'm being a little, we never see pitching prospects come up in Boston. Like, we saw Bayo this year. It's like, come on. Like, I love when Buchholz came up and threw a no-hitter. I love when Lester came up. Like, I miss that. I just want some pitching, man. That's all I want. But, yeah, I was a little bummed when they got rid of Groom because he was finally starting to get himself together. So, Nick, what's going on, my friend? One of our loyal Mets fans. This guy's relentless. He will come after all Braves fans, all Phillies fans, and he will let you know. So, Mets loser of the deadline. So he thinks they're losers. Givens was the worst bullpen arm traded. Vogelbach he likes, but hate the rest of the deadline. Givens gave up 5 runs tonight. Oh my God. Is that new? Oh, there we go. Off to a good start. Nick, man, thank you. Appreciate you, my friend. We had another one here. Jimmy Productions. Do you think Reese McGuire is good? I liked it. That was a very Heim Bloomish kind of a thing too. God, did I just make up a term? Heim Bloomish. Oh my goodness. Anyway, but he replaced Vasquez. He replaced his bat with Pham and Hosmer. Let's just say Pham because he did it all basically back to back. He got Pham, and then he replaced his glove with McGuire. So it's like that's such a Heim Bloom kind of a thing. Like, he's not gonna be able to replace him with one piece, but he did it with 2, and so I like McGuire, and he's under control too. So that's a guy. He's going to be a solid. I don't think he's a starter. I think he's a really good backup for you, where you can count on him to play some defense and handle the pitching. That is going to be one of the key storylines for the Red Sox moving into the offseason and next season too. What are they going to do about catcher? Like, are they going to bring Vasquez back? I don't think Bloom's going to do it. I think Bloom got to Boston, and it's like he's had a vendetta out for Christian Vasquez. Like, he has not liked him ever since. He's been in the rumor mill for the last couple years. Like, as soon as Bloom got there, you're talking about like Christian Vasquez to the Rays, the Mets, and then he got rid of him. I don't think Bloom ever wanted Christian Vasquez. I don't know, but I don't think he'll come back. That's going to be interesting. I wonder if they end up just going to the youth and they just kind of do it by a committee kind of an approach. They got Hernandez, you got Wong. Let's see if Wong can do it. This is the guy they brought in the Mookie Betts trade. Let's see if it's time. Catcher is just so hard. Mm-hmm. It's a really tough position.
I got a couple comments there.
Yeah.
McGuire, it's another case pretty similar to Hosmer where Bloom just smelled blood in the water and he took advantage of another team's lack of leverage.
Yes.
The White Sox had Yasmani Grandal coming off the injured list. He needed to be activated. And Seby Zavala, their other catcher, was hitting much better than McGuire and out of options. And so was McGuire. And so something had to give. They had to move one of those guys. And so Bloom said, sure, I'll take that. That'll fall into my lap. Sure. And then one other thought I have on Bloom, he obviously very different situation with the Rays. But he never really had one of those 1A type guys at catcher with the Rays, right? He never had one of the top 10 catchers in the league. That was never really an emphasis for him.
Mm-hmm.
And especially right now, because you look at the catching market, and Sean Murphy's the top guy available on the trade market, and he's a very good 2-way catcher. He hits, and he's a superlative fielder. But part of his game is pitch framing. And at some point here, we're not going to care about pitch framing anymore if they bring the automated strike zone in. So I wonder if Bloom is more nickel and diming until the automated zone, and then you can go out and get a bat who isn't as good of a glove behind the plate when you don't care as much about the defense. But until then, get some of these McGuire types that are going to be kind of glove first and focus on the rest of the lineup offensively.
Here's one guy if he's healthy. This is one guy I see Bloom going after is Zunino. He's a free agent.
Yep.
I definitely could see that. The bat, that power bat at Fenway.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my, like,
and lots of history there.
Oh my God. He has to be going after him. Like, if he doesn't go out, like, I'd be shocked if he didn't. Like, I think Zunino, if he's healthy, that's my prediction. If they go that route, if they go free agency, Zunino is going to be our catcher next year. Because you know you can count on him. Bloom knows him. You know, like, he's one of the better defensive catchers in the game. Good with the pitchers. That's my pick. Zunino almost kind of reminds me of like almost like Napoli. Like, just that power right-handed bat, like, got the beard and everything too. That's my pick for next year. I think Zunino will be the Red Sox catcher next year. But we had one more here before we do move on. Do you think the Padres will dethrone the Dodgers the next 3 years? I think where are they at right now in the standings? I think like 5 out.
They might be more like 10 off the top of my head. I haven't checked the standings in a little bit.
I'm just like so blank on everything right now. Like, I know
you
the Red
focus
Sox
so much on trades. You're not.
I know, like, I just could care less. I haven't even done power rankings for the last few weeks. Oh, they're 11.5 out.
Yeah.
Wow, it's that far. God, I haven't done power rankings for the last few weeks because I've just been focused on just trades, and they had the All-Star break too.
Mm-hmm.
God, I thought that was a lot closer. But I wonder next year. I could see the Padres next year winning it. This year, maybe not, but they got a whole squad out there coming next year. You know, the Dodgers. I feel like the Dodgers it's crazy because they're so far ahead. But like when I'm looking to the next couple of years, I think the Padres have gained a lot of momentum. You know, especially with Soto now. So if I were to put money on it, if I were to pick I would say the Padres will win a division in the next 3 years. At least one. You know, so
yeah, I mean,
they got to do it soon though.
You look this season, obviously they're 10 games back, but that's no Tatis and now no Soto. They're going to have those guys back for a month and a half, 2 months total between the two of them, or each, I should say, 2 months each. They're probably going to put up 4 wins, 5 wins combined down the stretch. Next season, you project that out. That's 5 or 6 wins, maybe 7 or 8 from the first half of the season that they didn't get because those two guys weren't on the team that they get to add next year. And that's way too simplistic. You know, they're going to have some moves they need to make on the pitching side. They got some free agents there, and you got to bake in some regression for a guy like Manny Machado, who's been very good this year, but he's been cold lately and he's getting older. So there's going to be a lot of moving parts there, but they're definitely in Dodger territory now. And it depends what kind of moves they make on top of Soto. Because after the year, they're going to need a first baseman, and they're going to need 2 or 3 starting pitchers, and always use bullpen help, stuff like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, good points there. I think we have all of our super chats caught up. Knowing me, I probably forgot one. No, we're good. Okay, good. Riley Turner, ESPN, terrible. Perfect. We're caught up. Really quick, I do just want to point out we still have a good amount of people in here. Don't forget, we do have a partnership with SeatGeek. $20 off your first purchase. Use my code HYDE. Go to a game. If you're a Mariners fan, go see Luis Castillo and go use my code. And don't forget about Prize Picks. We are partners with them as well. Use my code GINGER. 100% deposit match. If you deposit $10, you get $10. $100, you get $100. So use that code, and there you go. But let's move on. Let's kind of hammer out a couple here. Probably another 15, 20 minutes. And my next winner. I mean, I might actually just I'll just go one. I really like what the Phillies did. I really like what the Phillies did. I mean, Dave Dombrowski going out there, making some moves, and hold on, I'm not sharing my screen. There we go. The Phillies, a winner. What I liked here, there was a bit of a theme here, and you probably noticed it too, is that teams went out and they addressed multiple things, and the Phillies did that. They added Noah Syndergaard. They added David Robertson. They added Brandon Marsh. It's like, what the heck? They added a young center fielder. That was like probably one of the more out of left field kind of moves from this whole thing. I'm like, what? Brandon Marsh? Like, and I to be honest with you, like, I don't know. Do you call the Angels a loser here? The Angels are just losers all the time. So it's like, whatever. I love that they added Logan O'Hoppe. I will actually give them a lot of credit. That's why I don't consider them a loser, because they got a catcher of the future. Like, he's been doing well. And they didn't have that in their system. And with Marsh, I don't know what, they weren't figuring it out with him, but he is just like so perfect for the Phillies. Like, it was like a match I never knew I needed. Like, it just, I don't know what it is. He just looks good in a Philly uniform to me. Like, I just never thought of it. But I think he becomes a fan favorite. The Phillies also there were some reports out there that they see something with Marsh that they can fix. And offensively, there's something mechanically that they see that they can work with. And they feel confident taking him in. And I mean, they didn't really need Logan O'Hop at the end of the day. You got Real Muto for the next, 4 years, 5 years, or whatever it is. I liked what they did. I think Syndergaard, I just need the Phillies and the Mets to meet in the playoffs, and I need Syndergaard at Citi Field. Give it to me now. I will pay all the money to watch that game. My God. What do you think about the Phillies, man? I really like what they did.
Yeah, I have them more on the winning side. They're probably not quite up with the first few teams I have.
I agree with you.
They had a solid deadline.
Yes.
I do love the Marsh edition, especially getting it. Apparently, I cannot confirm this, but one Philly fan told me it was pronounced Ohapi, which is interesting. Yeah.
I can never get these names right. It just looks
so
like
many
Hop.
of them, and even the ones that look obvious, of course they aren't.
I mean, that's more fun to say. I actually like that a lot better. It's like, man.
But yeah, he was blocked by Real Muto. There really wasn't going to be a spot for him. Obvious trade candidate, and there is something interesting to that Marsh trade where he's a guy who's been kind of a breakout. Ohapi has. He's been a breakout candidate this year, so his arrow is kind of pointing up, and Marsh's arrow kind of pointing down. He was a former top 20, 25 prospect in the game and just hasn't shown it at the big league level yet. So in the model, we had that as a bit of an underpay by the Phillies, a good deal by them. But if those two guys trend in the same direction, then it evens out a little bit. But even if Marsh, even if all they get him to be is, a league average bat or slightly below, he's a great glove out in center field. And that was one of their primary needs. He's a cheap, great glove out in center field. And even if you have to have Kyle Schwarber and Nick Castellanos on either side of him, they're in the game to hit dingers. Yeah. And Marsh is in the game to go track down every fly ball that they can't get to. So it's it's a solid strategy. I'm with you. That was a shock to me. I didn't have Marsh as a guy who was going to be traded.
Oh, yeah, anyone did.
Yeah, but
that's the kind of player like under control like that. You don't think of a guy like, I think Angels fans were like, what? Like, what? Like, anyway, but yeah.
It works well for the Phillies given how high their payroll is getting and how many significant contracts they already have committed to go a little bit lower cost in center field. Yeah. They also picked up Edmundo Sosa, which is kind of a fringier move. He's more of just kind of a bench guy, but they needed a glove. He's a good defensive replacement for them at the least. They really needed defense. That was my one concern with them adding Syndergaard, is that he's not the pitcher he used to be. He doesn't miss bats quite as much. He is more reliant on his defense, and theirs has been pretty suspect. It's kind of like when they picked up Kyle Gibson last year. It's just a little bit weird. But if we are talking about Marsh is manning center field every day, and you're going to put Edmundo Sosa in the mid to late innings, then I think I like it a bit more as a fit. Love David Robertson there. I think they maybe could have gotten another reliever somewhere. But yeah, not a bad deadline by any means. Pretty solid.
Yeah, I really like what the Phillies did. They're not in my top, I would say, but they're up there. I think they went out because they hadn't really done anything, and they just made all these moves back to back to back, and it was good to see. I'm just glad they did something, and they're there and they're taking advantage of it. And so, yeah, I like Syndergaard for the back end of the rotation. It just gives them another arm. I just want the Phillies to just get there. And I think these moves are going to help them get there. So, what about you? Let's go. Maybe I don't know. You want to keep on with the winners? I don't know. Pick whatever you want.
Do you want to rapid fire a few? I have a lot of teams I want to talk about, but I know we're coming up on time. Do you want?
I'll rapid fire. I think we can agree the Nationals are a winner.
I'd have them as like it's hard for me to say they're a winner. If you're viewing them in the context of they had to trade Juan Soto, kind of like ownership mandate kind of thing,
Yeah.
then yeah, they did pretty well for the return they got.
Yeah.
For him. But I just have a hard time, ethically calling a team that trades Juan Soto away
I know what you
a
mean.
winner. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah.
It's like if you had to do it, then I mean they didn't have to do it, but they needed to do
yeah.
they needed to do it. It was
Mhm.
like, I mean, to me, if you had waited, like that's silly. I'm just glad at least they got back some, because at the end of the day, if you move up from the bottom 10 into the top 10 in farm systems, to me, that's a win,
Yeah.
because it's like, it is what it is. This is your fate. These are the cards that are dealt. You try. It's not like here's the thing. They didn't not try for Soto. Like that's where I give them a little more leeway there, because they did. They tried to sign the guy, big money, and he didn't do it. And so you can't really discredit them for that. But then again, I guess could you say they should offer more money? But I think everyone agreed, like, God, that's a lot of money to turn down.
It wasn't the kind of contract that the Red Sox have been offering Bogarts, where it's pretty clearly a low ball. They're not going to come up to his price point. It wasn't
right.
that. They at least got a good portion of the way there.
Yeah.
And you can still, I think it's reasonable for Soto to turn it down. And
yeah, I think
he
everyone
can
agrees.
reasonably.
No one was really in the wrong there.
Yeah.
He just knew his worth. He's like John says, he's a unicorn, To me, I like that the Nationals, I almost wanted to like not even mention them, just because like I can't believe they were even thinking of taking Hosmer back. Like I'm like, why? Like what is the point? Even if they paid the contract, like I get it, but like was that something the Padres were saying? Like, all right, if you don't take Hosmer, we're going somewhere else. Like I could see that as a thing, but like,
or I could see it as kind of a facilitator, as they like all the prospects, and the Padres say, hey, this is our last hang up. We don't have a spot for Hosmer. If you take him off our hands, we're good with this.
Yeah, I guess like I just
whatever, sure.
It's like you're just doing it for the Padres. Like there was no point taking him. Like it just made no sense to me. It's just like I'm not like maybe it gets a deal done, but like I don't know. I just feel like you didn't need to include. Like I get what you're saying. It's just like I don't know,
because at least Voigt's a guy. At least Voigt's a guy. You get a hot first half from him next year. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
next
year. I'm just thinking it's just like I don't know. To me, I just would have been like, no, I don't want Hosmer. Give me Voigt. Like I don't. No, I don't want this. Like this is ridiculous. So to me, at the end of the day, the Nationals, you got your farm system was so bad, and then you also got a couple other pieces in there that high upside guys. I like what the Nationals did at the end of the day. Those are the cards they were dealt. They got it done, and that is what it is. I think we have to mention here. We got to mention. Or you know what? Before I even get to that, because I would like to spend a little more than just like a minute. The Guardians. I wonder if they're kind of a loser here.
Yeah.
They didn't do anything.
They traded just did nothing. Sandy Leon for Ian Hamilton, and that was it.
Yeah, like okay, good. I'm glad someone else is seeing this, because like I'm just thinking you got
so it's slightly less offensive than the White Sox, just because the White Sox are at a further point along in their like window of contention. They're supposed to be win now, and the Guardians are kind of at that spot a little earlier than they expected to. So it's okay to kind of take your time. But they have John talks about it a lot. I bet he's talked about it on this show before. They have a roster crunch coming up. Yes. They have so many good prospects that they're going to need to add to the 40-man.
Yes.
And now would have been a great time to push in a couple of those pieces and get a Sean Murphy, a controllable catcher, or an Ian Happ even, or somebody like that.
Somebody.
It's a bit odd that they just didn't do anything at all.
Yeah. To me, the Guardians, it's like, and you're right there. I mean, if you're looking at the standings, you're right there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you didn't do anything. Like you could use a pitcher there for the rotation, and you didn't do anything. And you got assets, and it's like I understand you're still looking towards the next few years, but you did nothing. I don't know. I would say one more. I mean the Rockies.
Yeah, like that's easy.
That's an easy one. I don't. You have Colomé, you have Cole, like they're free agents. I don't get it. Like I don't understand it. Like that is like that's almost even worse to me that they didn't trade those guys instead of Story last year because at least they knew with Story they could get a draft pick. They're not going to get draft picks with those guys. Like, no, I mean, unless no one just wanted them, but their names were popping up. No one wanted. I could see column A. Maybe people were like, no.
But somebody could have used Chad Kuhl.
Somebody like no one. I don't know. Like that is a little weird to me.
Yeah.
Any rapid fire ones for you?
The Twins are a pretty big winner for me. I should have gotten them a lot sooner. They checked off every box and probably added 3 or 4 wins down the stretch. Plus, Lopez and Maile both have additional years of team control, and they didn't give up a ton. They didn't give up much they didn't give up anything from their big league roster. And they gave up a lot of lower level prospects. The big one is a Spencer Steer.
Yes,
and that's a decent piece to move, but not breaking the bank by any means. They got plenty of infield depth at the big league level and in the high minors. So I think they just aced it. Yeah, I don't have anything else. I'm very happy.
It's kind of funny with the Twins because you could talk about there's really not much to say. They just they did exactly what they needed to do. They have one of the lowest ranked bullpens on Fangraphs this year, and you added 2 quality relievers.
Mm-hmm.
Lopez has found his way in the bullpen, one of the better closers this year. Fulmer, solid setup guy. Molly, I think he works well there. He's more of a fly ball guy. Outfield defense, that works. Really good for the Twins. Absolutely fantastic. There's really not much else to say on that one. And I think if I were to, hold on, let me share this again. If I were to kind of throw a couple rapid fire ones, I think you could say Houston's a winner, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Just because they went out and they made moves and they made their team better and they're right there at the top of the American League. What are your thoughts on the Astros?
Yeah, we had them as overpaying just a little bit for Trey Mancini, but he's going to hit so much better at that ballpark than he did at Camden Yards. It's such a massive difference in the left field dimensions there. Yeah. So I have no complaints about their moves. You're right. They checked off their boxes, just a little bit smaller scale than the Twins, but that's because they didn't have as much they needed to do. They're a really, really solid team, top to bottom.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Houston, they went out and did what they had to do, and they still did it without not a great farm.
Mm-hmm.
They found ways to get it done. I think the big one where we should leave off is, to me, the Yankees. I think you got to put them right behind the Padres here. They had a phenomenal deadline. I'm amazed by it. I love what they did. I don't know. There's some people out there not liking the Bader Montgomery move. I loved it personally. That's just me. I understand why you wouldn't, but I got to hear your thoughts on the Yankees, man. I got to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I absolutely loved everything up to the Bader Montgomery move, and I don't dislike that one, but I'm with you. I absolutely see why there's some hesitation there. Bader's injured right now, and Montgomery, the fan base really liked him. He was a pretty reliable arm, and there's still some question marks in the rotation. I know the fan base isn't a big fan of Domingo Germán, and Jameson Taillon's been kind of cold lately, and I could see the argument to preferring to keep him, but Harrison Bader's a real impact player there. If he can get healthy soon here, I think they're going to be very happy with the deal. It's just a bit of a wild card because of the health issue. But yeah, love the Benintendi fit. Bit surprised by it because of, the whole vaccination question. But love the fit for their lineup, and the cost wasn't too bad. They kept their top guys. They kept Peraza, which was a bit surprising. Obviously, they kept Volpe. He wasn't going anywhere, but they kept Dominguez and Peraza. Montas just seemed like a natural fit. Again, they gave up some minor league pitching depth, but they seem to be really good at developing 5th, 6th rounders into quality prospects. And so if you trust your ability to do that, it's not a big deal to trade those guys away. And Scott Effross, awesome under the radar pickup. I have very, very few complaints. I think, there's some risk in the Montas for Bader deal, but everything else there, they checked off every box. They got every player they needed, and they look a lot better.
Yeah, to me, my God, it's just they did everything and more. I don't hear any more complaints about Cashman. Dude, I almost kind of like Effross the most.
Mm-hmm.
that they added him. That dude's been quality this year. He's been great.
And he's funky. He's a different look for their bullpen.
Yes. I love that. I to me, like, it's great. Yeah, you give it Wesneski, but man, they did all of this and they stuck with Volpe. They still have Peraza. I mean, you gave up a lot of like 5 to 15 range, even like 5 to 20 range, but you held on to your top guys. You gave up Waldichuk, but I mean, Trevino has better advanced numbers. Here's why I like the Harrison Bader trade. Now, I'm kind of coming more from a point of view where now here's the thing. I wasn't sharing the screen I was looking at. But anyway, I was not much of a player growing up. I played in high school, but I remember my coach would always say, got to be strong up the middle, right? Center field, second base, shortstop, catcher. Like, Bader is a player, man. Like, he's never going to have great stats, but he's a guy you want on your team. Like, when he's healthy. So to me, Bader, and he's shown it with his numbers too. He's an elite defensive center fielder. Numbers a little down this year. I wonder if the foot's been kind of bothering him this year, like kind of all year. Who knows? But his numbers are down a little bit. I don't think Cashman would have traded for him if they thought he wouldn't have been back for this year. I really do think that. I think they felt comfortable with Montas, and they have other pitchers they could turn to as well, that where they could trade Montgomery. Here's my thing. I watched Montgomery. I don't want that guy starting game 3 in a playoff series. I just don't. I like him in the regular season. I like him going up against, these lesser teams, maybe some mid teams. I don't want him going up against the Astros in the playoffs. I just don't. I'm okay with Montas doing that. Like, no disrespect to Montgomery, but I'm just not really a big, I don't know, like, he's good, but he's not like, whoa, like he's setting the world on fire kind of a guy. He's a good guy for your rotation, but he's not someone I'm turning to in the playoffs. That's just me. That's just more, it's not really an analytical thing. It's not a numbers thing. I'm just watching the guy. I'm like, I don't want him anywhere near a mound. Like, game 6, 7 against the Astros, the dude's probably going to go 3 innings tops. Like, to me, I want Montas. I want that workhorse. I think they felt comfortable. They needed to improve in center field. They were one of the lesser defensive teams in center field this year, 18th overall on Fangraphs when it came to defense. Bader is 6th overall in UZR, even though the defensive runs saved are down from what he has been doing. I think maybe that could have been with the foot, maybe. Maybe it's been something lingering. Because I'll tell you right now, plantar fasciitis is something, it's a nagging thing.
Yeah.
And it can just get worse over time. And that's what I'm thinking. He's probably, I don't know, something maybe was not going right with him for the whole year, but I don't think they would have traded for him if they didn't think he was going to be healthy. He could miss the rest of this month, and that is a lot of time to get yourself right. Like, you can come back last few weeks of September. The Yankees are already there. They lost today against the Mariners. That was awesome seeing Cole just get lit up, but they're there. And yeah, they are going to have to hold off the Astros for the number 1 seed, but I think they feel confident in themselves enough that they can get that number 1 seed. And to where, sure, yeah, Montgomery would have been nice to have in your rotation for the last bit, but they got Montas. So, I think they're going to be fine. I really like the move. I just loved, and now another thing is it's almost addition by subtraction. You're keeping Judge out of center field. Exactly. That guy, he has been pretty good in center field, but I don't want him running around in center field. I want to keep that guy running as least as possible. Like, dude, like, right field is already tough, but at Yankee Stadium, not really. That guy, keep him out of center field because that's the guy who's running around the most. So I just think it was good. I get why people didn't like it. That's just me. So I just always remember my coach telling me that. He's like, gotta be strong up the middle. You gotta be strong up the middle. And Bader, that dude's a ball player, man. Not great numbers, but he's the guy you want. He's a good chemistry guy too. Yeah, man. Those are my thoughts. I think the Yankees, it's too bad the Padres. Well, I know, as a Red Sox fan, no, screw them. Good the Padres had their, had their day. No, screw the Yankees. But no, I'm kidding. But the Yankees really had a phenomenal few days there. They are really in position for this thing. Like, wow. It's just health at this point. Stay healthy, man. I don't know. What are your final thoughts on the Yankees there?
Yeah, you just got to view the Bader-Montgomery move in that lens of this is for the playoffs. Because the Yankees have this season locked down. They're winning the division, 0% chance they don't.
Yeah.
Of course, now that I said that, something catastrophic is going to happen. But no, they're winning the division. They're looking to the playoffs. So it's okay that Bader's not healthy right now. And it's okay if they have a few rough starts here and there in what would have been Jordan Montgomery's spot. Because like you're saying, he's not one of your top 3 guys in the playoffs. You're going to be going Garrett Cole and Nestor Cortez and Frankie Montas. And then for that 4th spot, if you need it, hopefully Luis Severino's back. If not, you can...
Yeah, that's another thing too.
Yeah, if not, you piece something together with the bullpen and kind of figure it out from there. But yeah, Montgomery is not a huge difference maker in the playoffs. Bader could be with the defense, and he helps you. He lets you keep Stanton at DH, and Matt Carpenter is just an excellent player off the bench. You were totally on it with what you said, that it keeps Judge out of center field, keeps him hopefully a little bit fresher, a little bit healthier. And it's a big move for next season because Harrison Bader's under team control still, and you're losing Benintendi, and you're possibly losing Judge. So what does your outfield look like next season? It's Bader now, and whatever's left of Aaron Hicks, and whatever Giancarlo Stanton is looking like defensively. So it's insurance for next season and a potentially impact player for the postseason. Plus, there's a stipulation in the deal that if he isn't back for the playoffs, they're going to get a nice little sweetener from the Cardinals. There's a player to be named later. I have a feeling it'll be better than your traditional player to be named later because it's kind of a big deal if Bader can't play in the playoffs. So it's going to be something of some value, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a little bit of insurance in case things go totally south. But yeah, I think between some of your comments and just thinking about it a little more, I've talked myself into that deal. And yeah, just five stars, thumbs up for the Yankees.
Yeah, but I totally understand where people are coming from that too. I'm looking at it through a bit of a different lens. It is the health at the end of the day. My comments, I could eat my words. Absolutely. Yeah. So we'll have to wait and see. Looking at some of these other teams here, I like the Braves. I don't think they're like, here's the thing with winners and losers, right? Like it depends on what they're doing, you know, like the Reds, for example, like, yeah, they have a different goal here. Like the Braves did win, but like, are they top, you know, like, are they someone that, you know, they added a couple of pieces there. You added some depth with Odorizzi. It's like they did what I kind of wish the White Sox did, you know, like just adding some depth. Odorizzi, someone for the rotation, you know, got an arm for the bullpen. You know, got Raisel Iglesias. That's pretty good. I think the Braves are a fringe. Like, would you put them in like the winners up here? Where would you put them?
Yeah, they're probably. I don't want to expand your tier list, but I have them just between winners and in between. You know, a bit better than the Dodgers, bit worse than the Phillies or the Astros, that kind of thing.
Right.
They got some decent pieces. I think they gave a little bit too much for Iglesias, but not going to quibble too much about that one. They just didn't have as much work to do as a lot of teams.
I'll call this one kind of a winner, and then I'll put the Braves here.
Yeah, if you wanna throw the Brewers in there in that category as well. I like the pitching moves they did, but they needed a bat. I guess you could do the Blue Jays there. I don't know. They were a little bit quieter than I expected.
Yeah,
I like the bullpen moves for sure.
I feel like the Blue Jays were a little in between, you know, or if you do like a tier like below, like what would you call this one? Kind of losers. I don't know. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like you could put them maybe here. Like, well, then again, maybe put the Dodgers there and the Blue Jays there. Like, you know, so you know what I mean?
Yeah, there's some. There's gray area.
Yeah, they're kind of like in this middle zone.
Yeah.
You know, like they needed a bullpen guy. So I like what the Blue Jays did better than what the Dodgers and the Mets did.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I'm thinking of needs here. The Blue Jays really needed a guy, and they got a guy. You added some versatility with Whit Merrifield. I like that. The Mets and the Dodgers.
Anthony Bass is really solid out of the bullpen.
Yeah.
He's having a great year.
I like that move. I thought it was good. And they also added Mitch White, too. And that was a pretty nice depth piece for them. Yeah, I'd say the Blue Jays in between. Mets and Dodgers, kind of losers, I guess.
I'd have the
Sorta.
Cubs as kind of losers. I liked the moves they did make, but there's obviously the baffling, they held on to Wilson Contreras, and I'm not sure he's a qualifying offer guy. I think he just accepts it. $20 million is a lot of money.
It is. So I think the Cubs, they feel like they'll just give them they are doing the qualifying offers, right?
Yeah, it's back now. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, because the international, yeah. So, so they probably just feel like they get a draft pick for him, and
but I'm just not sure. I'm not entirely sure he turns down the $20 million.
And that's where I think the Cubs are thinking like, all right, well, if he comes back, then okay. Or at that point, I think if they feel like he's going to accept the qualifying offer, maybe they'll just kind of work on an extension with him. He just always has seemed like an extension guy for me with the Cubs. Yeah. Like, I don't know, like I don't know. I just get that vibe. I would actually say the Orioles did all right. They gave up a couple of pieces. They brought back, dude, that farm is dumb. Like they added pieces, man. They got an upside. I like that. And I like that they stuck to their plan. It's not really like the moves they made. I'm looking at what were did they achieve what they went to do? And they did, and they didn't get swayed by, fans or anything. They just stuck to their guns and they said, we got a vision and this is what we're doing. Mancini, yeah, we love him, but this is the path that we're on. I like the Orioles as an in-between. That's just me. I like, honestly, the A's, a little different than the A's and the Reds. I would say the A's are like kind of a winner. Yeah. I feel like I don't know. Montas is tricky though, just because of the shoulder.
Yeah, the Orioles, I'd probably put them in a similar basket to the Nationals, where in a vacuum, what they did was good. You just don't really feel good about it.
Yeah,
don't feel good about them trading Mancini, but they got a decent return.
Yeah.
The A's, as an A's fan myself, less and less each day, But but as an A's fan, it's like they got pretty fair value from Montas, and I'm fine with them holding on to Murphy and Laureano until the offseason.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not the most exciting return for Montas. Peraza would have been a little more fun, I think, than kind of throw some arms together and call it a day.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd have them in between or kind of a winner, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, a couple of more teams I would throw in. I would say the Cardinals are kind of a winner, adding Quintana. And Montgomery as well. We're talking about Montgomery. I like Montgomery. Here's the thing. I like Montgomery for the Cardinals better than I like him for the Yankees. Like, I think they need him more than the Yankees do. And I think the Yankees needed Bader more than the Cardinals did. Because the Cardinals, you can just put Carlson out there. So it's like, that was a perfect trade to me. Almost perfectly even values. So the Red Sox for me, I would say in between.
I'd have them, either in between or kind of a winner. Like they definitely did substantially better than the Giants, but I do still think there was a move or two missing.
Yeah, like that's why I'm in, because I like what they did. I love that. I love Bloom just adding pieces to the farm. It's exactly what he needs to be doing, but also keeping a competitive team. But I feel like he said it himself. He felt like there were teams out there. I actually don't mind the Royals a little bit. They actually got back a couple of pieces that I thought were okay. And Luke Weaver is whatever, but he's under control for next year. I don't hate it. Whatever.
Just another team that didn't quite do as much as I wanted.
Yeah.
Scott Barlow and Josh Staumont. I feel like they should have traded at least one of those.
Yeah,
two.
like it just feels like they added a couple of, but maybe, I don't know, maybe the Royals think they're, I don't know. Maybe they'll go do something.
I think they think they're better than they are, and they think that.
I think they're still hung up on their World Series, honestly. But yeah, I would say honestly, one move that I actually really liked, this one is a little low key, was I really liked the reliever the Pirates got back in the Vogelbach deal.
Yeah, Holderman.
I actually like that. He was I'm going really blank on the name right now.
Colin Holderman.
Yes, my goodness. You said Stallman earlier, and I'm like, that threw me off. I'm thinking like, wait, that's not him. I actually kind of like that for the Pirates, like a reliever that's under control, pretty decent advanced numbers, and the Pirates feel like they're pretty close. And that's a good arm. I just liked that move, like for them, because they just added a pretty quality piece, and Vogelbach was whatever.
Yeah.
Out of the rest of these teams, I would probably just say I would put the A's kind of a winner because, they added pieces. But then again, I could see why in between, because it's like, it's like the last of your fire sale and like you're just cool. You got pieces, but like, God, we suck, at the same time. It's like, but I don't know. I'm looking for the future. I'd say the A's, they did what they got. They did what they had to do. They didn't have to trade Montas. Yes, they needed to, but I don't know. And these other teams on the bottom, I did like the Marlins getting going just blank on the names again.
Groshans?
Grosh. I'm thinking of Jace Young, and I'm like, that's not him. It's Groshans. I did like that because they're trying to add more bats to that farm system. And hey, he's the number 4 prospect on Pipeline right now for the Marlins system. And he's not doing great in the minors. His on base is okay, but his
Just
batting
no power.
The slugging is just gone. Like I don't know. I think it could have some upside.
There's worse guys you can take a gamble on. And
I didn't mind the Marlins doing that.
Yeah.
Tampa was weird, but here's the thing with Tampa. I refuse to put them on any kind of a list like this because they are going to laugh in your face at the end of the day. And it's like, to me, if Tampa makes a trade, I'm putting them as a winner because they know exactly what they're doing. They are the smartest people on the planet. Like, I don't understand how they do what they do. Like, they got like these supercomputers back there or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But they made a couple of moves. I guarantee some of those guys, Jose Siri, watch, guarantee he'll blow up. Like, he'll be amazing for them. The Brewers, we didn't talk about the Brewers. I actually think the Brewers did a fantastic job replacing Hader. Like, dude, you already had Williams first off, so you have that luxury. But they really added bullpen arms. Like, they got Bush. You brought back Rogers in that deal. You got Lamet too. He's a project.
They actually just dumped Lamet today.
Oh, did they?
The DFA yeah. But they also did pick up Trevor Rosenthal, which I thought was really interesting. That's
I was about to say him next.
Risk.
Yeah. That's I think the Brewers are going to be fine.
I think they're missing the offensive addition.
That's why I'm just like, I don't know. They're in between for me. Yeah. I'll add them right now. I don't know. Like the Rangers, I would have liked for the Rangers to get a jump start on the market a little bit. Would have been cool if they brought in someone like Pablo Lopez,
even Zach Plesac, Aaron Savali.
Someone,
and they should have traded Matt Moore. They should have traded Matt Moore. I don't see a reason for them to keep him. I'm okay with them keeping Martin Perez. They want to extend him, whatever. But somebody could have used Matt Moore. The Mets could have used Matt Moore.
Yeah, I mean the Tigers. I don't know. They got rid of Fulmer and
Grossman.
Yeah, so I don't know.
They didn't have a lot to trade.
Yeah, that's the thing. Tigers are just in a weird spot, so it just feels weird putting them on this list. Just saying, you don't have to put these teams on this list, because like sometimes there's just not a deal there, and it's like I don't know. Like I'm not gonna call I know I put the Dodgers as kind of losers, but in the end, the Dodgers are not losers. Like they're gonna be winners at the end of the day. So I just feel like they could have done a little more. Honestly, I'd probably just take the Dodgers and the Mets off of this, because it's just like I just wanted them to do more. Like the Diamondbacks didn't really I don't know. They probably Peralta.
They probably either could have or should have moved guys like Ian Kennedy and Christian Walker, but it's not offensive or anything.
Yeah. I think the offseason – sorry, what?
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I think the offseason is better for like a tier list like this.
Yeah.
That's why I did my grades video earlier, and it's like, good content, but it's a little hard for some of the teams to just grade. Just because it's like it's the deadline, like it's not like everyone. To me, it's better to do maybe with just like the contenders.
Yeah.
So I don't know.
I think the last team I have anything to say about that we haven't gone too into is the Angels. We've kind of touched on them here and there.
Yeah.
I'd have them pretty firmly as in between because I'm really not a huge fan of them giving up on Marsh so quickly. I think he could have been a very valuable piece for them going forward. And Ohapi is nice, but I think there's more potential impact from a plus defensive center fielder, and you just go
Yeah, I can see
cheap,
that.
but cheap at catcher than the other way around.
Yeah.
But I love them getting out of Rice Iglesias' contract. Go a little
Yes.
cheaper in the bullpen and put that money toward other spots that desperately need help and actually build a winner around Ohtani and Trout. So I love them getting out of that contract.
This is going to be a big offseason for them. Like, because I'll call it now. If he's healthy, if the Angels are out of it next trade deadline, he's gone. Like, I don't see how they hang on to him. I can understand hanging on to him now, just because it's like, all right, because he says he likes playing there and he likes being there.
He's been very clear that he wants to win. So he's not sticking around there. I don't think he's signing an extension with them this offseason. I don't think there's any chance.
I think he wants to see what they do.
Them. Yeah, he's only signing with them if they can prove that they can get him to the playoffs.
Yeah,
and
that's
if they can't do that by next deadline, go get what you can for him in a trade.
Yeah, I agree. Like, to me, like, he likes it there, but he wants to win, and they'll give it another shot. I think they did go after some guys, but like, I don't know, man. It just feels like, I don't know if players really want to go there all that much. It's funny because you got Trout and Ohtani, but it's like, I don't know why they don't get more players. It's like just like Garrett Cole. Well, Garrett Cole wanted to go to the Yankees, I think, from the get-go, but I don't know.
When you talk about stars, first of all, there's the issue of just how much money they already have holed up in Trout and Rendon.
Yeah.
And then second, any star you bring in is playing third fiddle. They're the third best player and the third most popular player on that team. And some guys might rather go somewhere where they can be the guy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be really interesting. This offseason, I think, is going to be really interesting for a lot of these teams that are on this list, or, the teams that are on the bottom right there. Like, I think the Rangers could have an interesting offseason yet again. Angels for sure. What are the Padres going to talk extension? Are they going to try and do that? I don't know. It's going to be interesting, to see what ends up happening with these teams in the offseason. So, U.S. veteran, what's going on, my friend? Leave. The Angels have proved they cannot put a winner together. They have not. But I do like you said, they got out of the Rays Iglesias contract, and you added O'Hoppe. I'm saying that right now, O'Hoppe.
There we go.
To me, that's the thing about catching prospects like that. They're so far and few between, man. Like, they don't come around. I think the Angels saw that and they just took advantage. But there we are, everyone. I think we got as much in as we could. Man, that was again just kind of recapping. Just what a deadline! Like, it was just nuts. From like, I mean, I'd say last year was better.
Yeah,
last year was just crazy. Like, it was awesome. I loved last year. I don't know what it was. It was just fun. This one just felt a little chaotic and like a little. I felt more tired after this one for some reason. I don't know if it's just I had to go back to work yesterday or what, but I did just feel a little more tired. I don't know why. Like, last year just felt more fun. Like, this year was fun, but like, it was just the Juan Soto thing just kind of was the center of it. And like, once that was done, it was just
it was Soto and Castillo as far as like the star talent goes, and then after that, it was a good amount of mid-range guys and a good amount of small deals. So kind of watching it come through was really fun. But when you look back on it, I don't think there was quite as much talent changing teams as there was last year.
Yeah. So it'll be interesting now. Now that Hosmer is finally off, I see Cody in the chat. Rendon is he's talking about Rendon's contract.
Yeah, that's rough.
Could Rendon end up being, eventually the next Eric Hosmer that ends up getting moved?
Well, right now on the site, we have Strasburg and Rendon 1-2 as the least valuable players in baseball, because they're both just fully underwater on exorbitant contracts, and it's rough.
I bet they're regretting that one. But all righty, everyone, let's get out of here. That's enough deadline for now. I will be posting my video, and I promise that will be the last deadline thing that I talk about. They're my final grades. So, but hey, man, again, thank you for you and John for doing the site, and again, like, just congrats on everything, man. Like, just the growth of the site. I don't know. Like we still got a good chunk of people in here. Any plans that you know about, maybe, for the site in the future, anything? I don't know. What are you thinking?
So in the short term, the plan is to wrap up our last couple little deadline things and take a little break.
Yeah. Yeah, man.
But one of our main focuses once we get back into things a little bit is we already in the last couple months we made some pretty substantial improvements in terms of getting the process of updating players a little more automated. And
Yeah.
we think we can get even further with that to the point where we're updating the values much more frequently. So that's kind of our primary goal. We got some other odds and ends enhancements to the site, little cleanup type stuff that we want to do. But if we can get the system much more automated, that means so much less hours that we have to put toward manually updating players, and so much more we can put toward other fun stuff. So
absolutely,
that's goal number one right now. But
that'd be fantastic.
Very, very fun deadline. Very fun time covering it all and coming on here. Thanks for having me on again.
Yeah, man. We're gonna have to we'll have to figure out a way for you and John to come back on. I know obviously the deadline's come and gone, but maybe we could. I don't know. Maybe like some kind of I don't know. I have no idea. My brain's fried. I got no idea.
We'll sort something out.
We'll figure something out because I do want. Because that's the one thing. Like I don't want you guys to just like. Because the trade deadline's come and gone. Like to me, the site, it's been huge. So got to figure out a way to keep that going. So we'll figure out some ways, and maybe even like, I know John's talked about maybe doing some kind of like off-season sort of like free agent value kind of thing. So maybe we could talk about, I don't know, maybe even do like a super early preview at some point of some free agents. I don't know. We'll figure something out. I don't know. Our brains are fried. We're done. I need a bed. I got to wake up in the morning for work. But everyone, on your way out, if you can, hit the like button for me. And thank you for coming out tonight. Do appreciate it. And go have yourself a great night, everyone. And we'll talk to you next time.